Hello YouTube, this is Dr. Drake 63 here today to talk to you about lever action guns from Marlin. These are two examples. On the top you see an 1895 GBL, which stands for basically nomenclature means it's a guide gun, shorter barrel with a big loop, guide big loop, GBL. This is a gun that was manufactured within the last year. I purchased this basically January time frame of 2017. And we're also going to talk about my longest owned lever action rifle, which is a 336. This has some little modifications that you can see that I did that I can talk about with leather. This is a walnut stock. That's why it's finished very smoothly, very evenly, and you're comparing this, of course, to a laminate stock, and we'll talk about that too when we get up close and personal. The 336, this particular one, is, I believe, manufactured in the early to mid 1980s. Everybody talks about these powerful, terrible military rifles that some of the gun nuts want. Of course, statistically, these things aren't involved. They don't drive what's wrong with violence in our country, but that's neither here nor there. Something that's real interesting is a lot of folks will always say, hey, I'm fine with hunting rifles. It's these powerful military rifles, these semi-automatics, that are really screwing things up. And here's something that's real interesting to show you. Guess which one is the AK bullet? That's right. Right there on the left, guys. It doesn't have as much power. I'll show you here graphically in a bit that it basically is the same round as an AK round, and it's a 30-30. It's the tree stand gun. It's the one, like I said, that your grandpa, that your dad, that your cousin has, and nobody objects to this thing because it's, classic. And it's designed in its look. First rifle we're going to take a good look at today is the Marlin 1895 GBL. Again, as previously discussed, big loop for wearing gloves, wintertime, ranch gloves, whatever you're doing. You'll notice this one has been outfitted with a little bit different than a factory buckhorn sight. I went ahead and put some Skinner factory sights on this one. They very, very pretty dress up to the gun. There's no question about it. The bigger question becomes, how do they shoot? And we'll discuss that a little bit later. But you can see from looking at the gun that it's a relatively brief barrel. It's 18 inches. So you've got kind of a carbine kind of thing. It's very handy, easy to carry. I told you we'd look at those peep sights a little bit more. Basically, this is what you have. I don't know how well this is going to come through with this camera, but you have an aperture that lines up with your front sight. You can change those apertures. It's very accurate. Very accurate. That along with the caliber, of course. So, speaking of the caliber, this is the bullet that we're talking about. Okay. 4570. This particular one is Remington core locked, 405 grain. This is going to probably take down just about anything you want to shoot at. I know a lot of people want to use just pure cast for bears. But if we want to compare that particular one to the 30-30 round, you can see it's not really much longer, but it's just so much bigger around. So in my left is a 30 caliber round, which we all think of being pretty good size for toting around rifles, and here you go. How about a 45 caliber, 45-70? That's crazy. Weighing in at 7 pounds, we have a 6-shot tubular magazine, which enables, when added with one in the chamber, 7 rounds of some very, very large caliber stuff. Just looking at that barrel, that's big bore all the way. Very handy. I could definitely see carrying something like this in the bush when you don't know when or where you might see predators, especially the kind that bother humans. Next up, we're going to take a closer look at the 336. This was manufactured before the folks from the Remington Company absorbed production into their plants. Has what's called a JM stamped barrel, which is really hard to get in focus here. Maybe we'll take a picture and throw it up. Supposedly supposed to be better quality. I think there might be some truth in that. You've always got some things that happen when you switch manufacturers. All I know is the 1895, which is current manufacturing, is pretty darn good. Taking a look at this is a little leather project that I did. Wish I would have put a few more rounds up there on the on the buttstock, but a simple little leather job I did. I made the sling as well, and it's could use some improvement. But taking a look closer at this gun, just beautiful workmanship. This has been out hunting in tree stands a number of years, so it's seen some wear and tear. It has the original buckhorn sights that you can see right here, and I left the hood on the front sight. The 1895 came with a hooded front sight. Looks like I'm shooting the Eiffel Tower. We don't want to cause problems with our French friends, but this little protector there over the front sight, I took that off the 1895. It does protect the front sight. I know my son uses this gun a lot and says he likes it because of the sight picture that it gives you. So, but this particular firearm is one of the more sought after 336s just because of the JM stamped barrel. And I think you can kind of see it here in the light. JM. That doesn't really mean squat to me unless I was going to sell it, which I'm not. So, but if you look at the finish of this, especially compared to the laminated, this almost looks like it's painted, and it's not. It's just a very, very evenly applied process, and ends up working out pretty well. And like I said, this is a firearm that has been used to field quite a bit. When I got it, it was used, and I've used it quite a bit over the last 5 or 6 years. And it's a nice looking firearm for sure. My favorite kind of ammunition for either lever gun is Hornady Lever Revolution. I can't even say it, but you guys can see it. Lever Evolution. I think I just said it. I'm just going to leave this in. I don't edit. Anyway, this is what it looks like. And what's special about this? Well, if you look at a traditional 45-70 slug, it's flat-nosed here on the left. And the reason is because it needs to load in a tubular magazine against other bullets. Now, if you had a good ballistic shape on this, such as this, but it was made out of metal, then you have to worry about setting off the primer of the one in front of it. Not good. So this is pretty much what you were left with, were these kind of flat-nosed kind of bullets until Hornady came out with these. And we've got these both for a 30-30N and the 45-70. What's nice about these is they are flat shooting bullets. In other words, you can pretty much set yourself up with being about 5 inches high at 100. You're going to be zeroed at 200 with this bullet. And that's some pretty dang good performance. Hornady claims they can get up to 250 feet per second more than other commercial ammunition in this load because of the way they do things. I don't know about that, but I like their products. And they fire well with this rifle. Some very, very accurate hits. First time I shot this rifle, I fired 3 shots and could only find 2 and realized I shot one twice as a part of a 1.5 inch group iron sights at 50 yards. Can't complain about that. I also mentioned that you have the same ammunition available for the 30-30. Lever evolution, now that we can say that. And they list their data here in terms of how you zero this. I don't know how. When it comes to something like an 18.5 inch guide gun type 45-70 like this, something compact and hard hitting, I believe that this is something that I can take in the woods, as some guys would say, the brush, and be prepared for anything. Probably with these kind of loads that I would be out there with would of course be for hunting, and I would probably be looking at something like a 325 grain load. No, I don't want to hunt black bears, or I'm sorry, brown bears, grizzlies with this. But with the right loads, I'd have no problem having this be the gun that I relied on. Someplace like Alaska. I'm looking at this 30-30. Philosophy of use is simple. It's the deer gun. It's the one we climb up into the stand with and feel very comfortable taking shots out to 150 or so. Like I said earlier, you're not going to see that out there. It's a very handy gun. We like it. Definitely wouldn't want to part with either of these. These are fine examples of craftsmanship. And speaking of which, there's going to be some people that are going to look at the manufacturer of this and they're going to say, wait a minute. Look at this little crack between the wood and the metal. Same thing on this other side. A little bit more pronounced. That's going to really bother some people. It's not going to bother me, and I can tell you why it's not going to bother me. I live in a state where we can get as hot as 100 degrees and high humidity. We can get down to 30, 40 below all in the same year, and my rifles are going to be out in a lot of that. Maybe not on the most extreme days, but close to it. Humidity is going to cause wood to swell. Temperature is going to cause metal to shrink and contract. More than anything, getting cold. So you need to have some fitment. I've heard a lot of comments over the last few years since the Freedom Group, i.e. Remington, purchased Marlin, that quality has gone downhill and things aren't as good as they used to be. And quite frankly, I have limited experience with which to comment. Only can I say when you cycle the levers on the JM Stamp 336, when you compare that to the recently made Marlin, very similar. If anything, that the GBL might be a little bit easier to cycle in terms of smoothness factor. Both accurate guns. When people talk about quality going downhill, I'm sure there were some hiccups at first, but I'm just not hearing about these things as much anymore. And I guess for the folks that always like to look at things in terms of, hey, things are always better in the old days, this is just another example of that, and there's nothing we can do about it. Marlin's long since been purchased by Remington. They've kept the brand going. They're pushing their products, and at least in this man's opinion, they're doing a good job of building these rifles. .336.